Good evening, my friends, wherever you are. From the hot west coast of Sweden, this is your host, Henrik Palmgren, editor of the website red-ice.net. Thank you for tuning in to Red Ice Radio. This is our weekly show here on bbsradio.com, and you can hear us here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific or 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And I'm glad you are here, and I hope that you know that we will continue today with our part 3 of our ongoing series with Michael Tsarion. And of course we will also continue with our contest, so I hope we have some hungry listeners out there who are tuning in live and would like to give us a call later on as we get to round 3 of our contest. And I can also mention that last week Daniel Whitaker from Leeds, England, sent us a mail after the show with the correct answer. And Michael's question, of course, was where the stone of Bethel is located. And it was a bit of a tricky one, but after a few answers we got the correct one, which of course was Newgrange in Ireland, for all of you wondering about that. So congratulations to Daniel Whitaker on the DVD there. And we still have 4 left of the from the series, Origins and Oracle series, to hand out. So participate in today's show in the contest, and if you win, you'll be able to pick the one of your choice of the remaining ones. So this is the number you should call when the time comes later on. 1-877-876-5227. Again, that's 1-877-876-5227, and just add 001 in front of that number if you're calling from outside the US, and we'll be giving out those numbers again later on, so no worries about that. And now we have gone through a few of the many areas of Michael's research, and as we continue, as we progress forward here to try to, we're going to try to tie this all together for you, and there are so many different areas to touch upon and many threads to unravel, and this stuff needs to be, sorted out if we're going to be able to understand all of the crazy stuff that is happening here today. And to dive into it, I mean, this is about, we're going to talk a little bit today about Judaism and the connections to Freemasonry and, the secret societies of both the modern and the ancient world, like the cult of Aton, and how they are behind the creation of the Bible, and now the end times of this game plan that is described in the Bible is being played out. A third world war, basically. If you let me highlight again a quote here that Michael first brought to my attention a while back. That is a quote by Albert Pike when he wrote a letter to Giuseppe Mazzini. And Albert Pike, of course, is the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. And he wrote this: "The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agenter of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against a world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deitistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. With that, I say welcome back to the program, Michael, and what do you think about that quote?
Yeah, hi, San Henrik. That's a great quote, and again, could say several things about it. First of all, these guys who write that are writing to their own brothers, so they're not just shooting the breeze, they're not addressing the public, and that's why we can trust what they're saying. We need to read every word very carefully. We need to bring their own documents out into the limelight, because that does two things. That stops people from dissenting against people like us. You know, because if your ground is in the writings of these individuals, then you see you're on very strong ground, because anybody can muck-sling at people like us when we start to bring up these subjects and try to impress its importance on our brothers and sisters in the world. And of course, we know what their first reaction is, which is to just completely, dismiss it.
Yeah.
And to defy us and to try and shout us down. Because as I've said so many times, to my audiences, we better understand that when you set yourself up as a teacher, you're also setting yourself up as a threat. In fact, I've often said that the word teacher is synonymous with the word threat. As soon as you try to come up against people's belief systems, you're going to be perceived as a threat. That's obvious.
Yeah.
But once you go to the actual horse's mouth, so to speak, and you reveal passages like that, and that's not the only one. Anyone who's bothered to read the works of the revolutionaries like Mazzini, and anyone who's bothered to read Albert Pike and all of his henchmen, and the many hundreds of other people working for secret societies, right up to the present day. What we've got to understand is that most of the politicians that are put before us, even including some of those that appear to be benign, like the head of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, and maybe people like Nelson Mandela, who get a standing ovation wherever they go. We just realize that these people are agents of secret societies. They're not just popping out of the blue, and they don't just belong to merely political societies. These are people who work for Big Brother and for some very hidden forces. And when you go to their actual works, or when you go to commentaries on their works, then you will find statements like this incredible one that show that, first of all, just like Werner von Braun was able to predict 25 years before the actual event that there would be an invasion into Iraq. So it is with these people, decades, sometimes generations before the event, they're telling you what the game plan is. And that is because most of the things that happen in history are orchestrated. This conflict of what we're laughingly calling Jews and Islamic people is just a full conflict created from further up the pyramid. Because, first of all, hopefully we'll get into it today, is that the people that think of themselves as Jews and that are called Jews by the world are not the Jews, the real Jews, the real Jewess. The real Jewess are, of course, the cult of Aton that we were talking about, and the royal dynasties of Europe. But they are very aware that they might be exposed at certain points in time. Luciferians, by definition, cannot afford to let their belief systems and their rites and practices be known publicly. Because if they would be annihilated, if they were. So they have a very, very elaborate strategies to cover up. And one of the best ones that they have created is to create a faux Judaism and a faux Christianity. Very low-level stuff. This is the stuff of the pawns, the unthinking masses. And then they embroil those individuals in conflicts, which is very easy to do. It's the same conflict, that the two neighbors have over the garden hedge or something. Or over some barking dog. It's very simple to do. And they're amazed at how simple it is. So they create this faux Judaism. There's not 80% of the people calling themselves Jews are not even remotely connected to anyone in Palestine. The Temple of Jerusalem has yet to be discovered. They don't even know where it was. Yet, of course, if you watch any of these Christian pro-Zionist evangelists, they'll always be telling you, they're taking trips to Jerusalem and they know where it was. And yet archaeologists, the people in charge of things like that, cannot find it. So these conflicts that exist are exactly the same kind of conflicts that existed, say, in Northern Ireland. Or they're the same tribal disputes that have existed in every country in the world, like South Africa, or or Nicaragua, or that's happening in the Amazon rainforest right now, where corporate forces are trying to oppose different tribal groups down there. This is done right today. This is not something old. Look at Bosnia. Look at what's going on. These are tribal situations. Now, the conflicts that are happening in the Middle East today, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the Arab Emirates, okay?
Yeah.
That is a precise creation of the British government post First and Second World War, when they divided up those states into very, very antithetical segments, where they put very unlike people close at hand. I mean, we've got to understand that these are artificial boundaries. Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, these were created by the British government.
Exactly.
Every single country in the world that has to apply for a coat of arms or a flag, I mean, people see flags waving, but they never stop to say, what is a flag? How do all the flags have the tripartite colors?
Exactly.
Usually there are 3 bars, you know, running horizontal or running vertical. How come they all look the same? Hasn't anybody got any imagination? All the countries of the world, the flags look very, very similar. Well, it's because every country in the world, especially of the Commonwealth in Europe, has to apply to the Royal College of Arms in London to get permission to have a coat of arms.
Yeah.
How come we're not told that?
Exactly.
Although whistleblowing movies like the first James Bond movie on His Majesty's Secret Service, but people better watch that film again and pay attention to the story of the heraldry and the Bond family and what they're dropping there, the whole story of how the College of Arms is important. Well, every country, I don't care if it's some little nothing country in Africa, if you want to be part of the Commonwealth and you want to have a coat of arms, you apply to London to get it. Masonic organizations.
Yeah.
Point being that these divisions, like, for instance, the ones that have been bothering us since 1990 with the ones in the Middle East, those are artificial creations, knowing full well. My point is that these were created in times past because it was known that if you give them 20, 25 years, these people are going to be at each other's throats, because we're purposely putting Christians, Muslims, and Jews beside each other. Hate each other's guts. Same thing in Bosnia. Those are artificial divisions. Same thing in Cyprus and Greece. The British government were all over the conflicts of the old, the Greek and the Turkish conflict that caused so many deaths. And they were also in charge of the demarcations of the Slovak countries. You see, the division after especially communism fell, they got in there and made sure that Muslims, Jews, and the Serbs are the oldest indigenous people there, completely brutalized. Now, wait a minute. These are the Serbs who helped us fight the Nazis in the Second World War. These are the Serbs who served the Allies, England and America, in the First World War. How come suddenly Clinton and Bush and all of these people are turning on the old Allies and helping those who helped the Nazis? Are you aware, Henrik, that the Croats, these are the Utashi, the Secret Service, and the people of the Croats were Nazi supporters and still are to this day, and they fought British, Canadian, and American troops, right? In the Second World War, and they were the greatest enemies, along with the Nazis, of the Allies' forces. 2 minutes later in history, the Allied forces are bombing Serbs, our ancient allies.
Amazing.
This is what I mean. We were talking about contradictions last week.
Exactly.
There's another going contradiction, the shame that has been done. So your quote is exactly this. There are many, many examples of this, not only divisive technology that's being used, this technocracy of power, but also the foresight with which these policies have been created. They're done ahead of time, sometimes many centuries ahead of time.
Absolutely.
And of course, the most key part of that quote that you made is the final sentence, which talks about Luciferianism, and of course that will always raise people's eyebrows.
Indeed.
In our previous shows, and on the work that I'm doing, people better realize now that you can use a synonym for Luciferianism is Atonism. So, if people want a little bit more understanding outside of a Christian context, if they want to clear away the real cobwebs and understand what this Luciferianism is, because that's a well